Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Six p.m. in Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest region. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. First, our major stories. A former senior divisional officer for the Mifi division, the West region of Cameroon, dies under unclear circumstances. David Aman was discovered at his Konlanga residence, that is in the Mefona Famba division, with blood oozing out from his head. Away from that, we'll tell you how bishops in Cameroon weep over Cameroon's stagnation 65 years after independence. They call on Cameroon government to humble itself and dialogue with separatist fighters so as to find a way out of the 8-year-old Anglophone crisis. They equally decry the worsening socio-economic situation of the country. Those are major stories. Stay with us for greater details. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin with this sad story as the former senior divisional officer for the Mifi division in the West region of Cameroon, David Aman Kulbut, was found dead at his residence in Kolanga in the Mefona Famba division center region of Cameroon this afternoon. Controversies surrounding his death have stormed the social media space. While some sources claim he committed suicide, another school of thought claim it was a disguised crime. He equally served as the senior divisional officer for the Mehmet division, the Southwest region, and also for the Njan Lobo division in the South region of Cameroon. We are closely following up the affair and we're bringing you up updates in our subsequent news edition. Now we talk something else. Two individuals aged 29 and 33 years old have been arrested in the city of Douala. The suspects, believed to be human bone traffickers, were arrested in Douala as they were making plans to sell the bones to a client at a sum of 5.5 million francs CFA. Greater details with Mala Glory.
A disguised backpack that traveled all the way from Messager, Donga Mountain Division in the Northwest region, to Tiko in the Southwest region, and back to Douala has nothing but human skeleton.
Les ossements humains ramenés par ceux-ci du village Messager dans le département du Bouy, région du Nord.
According to gendarme officers, the bones were dug in Messager and hidden in a forest in the town of Tiko by two individuals who are known for human bone trafficking. The traffickers were caught in the city of Douala, their town of residence, trying to sell the human bones at the sum of 5,500,000 francs.
Informé des faits à travers notre réseau de renseignement.
He says their investigations pushed the suspect to bring their so-called business product to Douala. Thanks to a reliable information, the two suspects were intercepted by senior warrant officer Jean-Eri Tienfak, accompanied by the first deputy commander of the Douala 2 Gendarmerie Company. The two traffickers, aged between 29 and 33 years, were taken to the Gendarmerie Research Unit of Douala 2 for questioning. Meantime, the gendarme officers used the opportunity to call on the population for a close collaboration and to denounce any suspected cases in their neighborhood.
Malaglari reporting there. Still on our human interest page, a visually impaired man is seeking for justice. According to Sylvain Onana, his biological son is bent on making him lose all his assets, including his piece of land found in Mesa Mendongo, a neighborhood in Yaoundé. He says the land was sold without his consent. Smajikan Gabriel reports.
Sylvain Onana is a blind man who has successfully bought a piece of land measuring 835 square meters in the Mesamendongo neighborhood of Yaoundé, Center region. The piece of land that was registered in 2007 is about being lost by Sylvain Onana as a child who is profiting from the father's disability wants to do an illegal sale of the land. One morning he came with a geometric agent that I have to do fingerprint. 3 days later, he returned that we have to finalize it in the office of a notary. Even at the notary's office, Sylvain Onana isn't made to know the type of document he was following, that his fingerprints were being collected. We went to the notary's office. A secretary came again for another fingerprint. Even there, I was thinking I would be told the truth, but everyone was still silent over it.
Tout le monde était muet comme des carpes.
It was only at the surveyor's office in Fundi that Sylvain will discover the reasons behind the collection of his fingerprints. It was later that we went to the office, the agent in charge of land issues, that I learned about the change on my land certificate. A pharmacist was the one who had bought my land. The land that was sold to a neighbor, a pharmacist, has left Sylvain Onana frustrated. She has to reimburse me, but she doesn't know how to go about it. It was going through the sales certificate that we discovered that the land was sold at 152 million francs CFA. The court of first instance Yaoundé Center has been brought in to clear off things. For now, the buyer of the land, who refused talking on our microphone, is found in a very confusing state.
Now we talk religion. Bishops of Cameroon have decried the worsening economic situation of the country, which has been causing severe hardship and suffering to the Cameroonian people, especially the less privileged. This was the final message of the bishops of Cameroon addressed to Christians, Cameroonians, especially the political class, during a pontifical mass at the Divine Mercy Co-Cathedral in Boya over the weekend. Anna Bila was in Boya and now reports on what was said.
The head of state acknowledged that the malaise of Cameroonians also stems from bad governance and therefore poor management of public affairs.
As the bishops of Cameroon conclude their 48th annual seminar in Boya, the major highlight was on the content of the final message to Cameroonians, especially to the political class. The bishops in their message addressed the disastrous socio-economic situation of the country and reiterate that never can they be indifferent to the sufferings of the poor masses in Cameroon.
Especially those who are suffering, those who are going through a life of poverty, those who are marginalized. The Church of Cameroon identifies herself with the suffering masses, and that is why we decided to address this strong message of hope to our people, and at the same time a message of encouragement and direction to the authorities that be.
As he read the bishop's strong-worded message at the Divine Mercy Co-Cathedral in Moliko, the Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference, Monsignor Nyaga, outlined clearly how Cameroonians are languishing in poverty and misery, moving from a bad to a worse situation as the years go by.
35 years after the alarm bells rang concerning the economic crisis, and 65 years after our country gained independence, it must be said that we are still living in economic and social stagnation with an uncertain future.
Embezzlement of public funds, according to the bishops, is favored by the non-respect of Article 66 of the Cameroonian Constitution.
The proof of this is in the failure to apply Article 66 of our fundamental law, which requires all Cameroonians who assume important responsibilities in the service of the nation to declare their assets.
The bishops of Cameroon question if some big wigs are feeling fat from the Anglophone crisis, reason the war is still going on.
Those who wage the war are getting scattered to the rich, and those the war draw to an end.
The heads of dioceses of the Roman Catholic Church stand with their Christians and empathize with their sufferings. To journalists, the bishops enjoined them to stand firm and never to be intimidated. The bishops of Cameroon lament that 35 years after the economic crisis and 65 years after independence, the government of Cameroon has seemingly failed Cameroonians. Corruption is still deep in the country, leaving the destitute population in total desperation.
And now a bishop in the excerpt which comes up next further explains the challenges faced by Cameroonians while calling on the government of Cameroon not to give a deaf ear to the cry of the people. Take a listen to Monsignor Paul Nyanga, Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference in this excerpt.
How can we explain the fact that 65 years after independence, our development can guarantee basic human rights, such as the right to food, the right to education, the right to quality health care, the right to justice, in short, the right to life. Cameroonians feel despondency because they lack the necessities of life. It suffices to look at the standard of living in both families in a town and villages. It simply leaves much to be desired. It's a truth that poverty is on the rise in our country. Many of our fellow citizens are living in dramatically precarious conditions and in burden undignified conditions. Unemployment among young people seems to have no end in sight, even among graduates. Hence, the mass exodus from the country in search of greener pastures.
Monsignor Paul Nyanga, Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference, speaking to our reporter Anne Abila. Now we talk something else. Cameroon remains one of the few African countries where dual nationality is still prohibited. While the majority of African states have adopted dual citizenship without conditions and some with conditions, Cameroon is lagging. Rights defenders, civil society, political leaders and academicians have been pressing for a revision of the nationality law to no avail. Dr. Ako John Ako is one of the latest academicians to publish a book on the issue titled Diaspora Investment and Dual Nationality, the need for legal reforms, urging the government to accept dual nationality, highlighting its economic and even cultural benefits. Babila Jonathan with greater details.
A Cameroonian who acquires a foreign nationality or an immigrant who becomes a naturalized citizen of another country automatically loses his or her Cameroonian nationality. Article 31 of the Nationality Code neither recognizes nor allows dual nationality. It is considered as a major obstruction to diaspora investment in Cameroon.
You leave this country alone, go to the US, thrive there, become American, your whole family is here, and you want to come here, they ask you to produce an invitation letter, to produce proof of where you're going to stay.
The public investment law makes it very clear. Access to land must be only by Cameroonians. I mean that if a foreigner needs to gain land, he needs a Cameroonian to stand in front. Secondly, when it comes to financial transfer, we have very strong laws that you must identify yourself to make certain amounts of money reachable. Now, Cameroonians that are abroad, if they have to come to Cameroon, they will need a passport. They will need a visa. And that visa will give them a timeline.
Recently, there's been an outcry by individuals for Cameroon to embrace the dual nationality system.
By allowing dual nationality, we can really strengthen their connection to our homeland, encouraging them to invest not only financially, but also emotionally and culturally.
If we strip off dual nationality, a Cameroonian is free to pay his transport and come to Cameroon without necessarily taking a visa. You don't need to pay your flight. And in Cameroon, you cannot be limited by days. There is no nation in the world, read it, including the United States, China, Russia, that has developed without diaspora.
In the book, Diaspora Investment and Dual Nationality, The Need for Legal Reforms, Dr. Ako John Ako argues that it is imperative for the nationality law to be revised.
The government of Cameroon should rethink and dilute or otherwise amend the 1968 law. 70 years, close to 60 years, is too long a period, and such a law needs a second reading, and if not, an amendment act should be proposed by members of parliament.
Meantime, Dr. Ako John Ako, other civil society and political leaders like Barrister Kere Muna condemn what they qualify as the discriminatory implementation of the nationality law, highlighting the case of some top government officials, sports professionals, and even women benefiting from dual and even multinationalities.
On to something else. 93 years after creation, the Douala Lakantini Hospital now has its first ever female director. Dr. Marie-Solange Dom-Ebonge, appointed by Prime Ministerial decision on December 31st, 2024, was installed on Monday, January 16th, 2025 in a highly attended ceremony at the Douala Lakantini Hospital. From Armstrong Sanda tells us more.
Appointed on December 31st, 2024, Dr. Marie-Solange Dom-Ebonge officially takes over a hospital facility with a staff strength of over 1,400 persons situated in the heart of the city of Douala. Appointed and installed as the first ever female director of the 93-year-old hospital facility, Dr. Marie-Solange Dom has a huge task ahead of her.
L'hôpital Lakantini de Douala est un symbole fort.
She is reminded that the Lakantini Hospital is a symbolic and an important health facility in the healthcare system of Cameroon, hence should maintain the pace in excellence, rigor, and compassion. Dr. Manauda Malashi challenges her to work in close collaboration and harmony with the staff of the hospital if she wants to succeed.
Vous devez d'ailleurs vous appuyer sur vos collaborateurs.
Beyond the above challenges, the female director is expected to uphold and better the concept of humanized healthcare delivery as recommended by the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malashi.
Les défis sont grands, je le sais.
The task is enormous, but I am convinced that you have what it takes to be able to deliver. I therefore urge you to work hard in order to modernize the current resources and improve on the healthcare delivery of this important hospital.
La modernisation des infrastructures afin de continuer.
Dr. Marie-Solange Dom-Ebonge is a cardiologist by profession with several years of experience as the head of the cardiological department of the Douala Lakantini Hospital. Married to a medical doctor and colonel, Dr. Marine Dom hails from Yabasi in the Kam division of the Littoral region. Before her appointment, she was the head of the cardiological department of the hospital and at the same time, the medical advisor #1 of the Lakantini Hospital.
And now in news out of the country, more than 20 people are reported to have died in multiple wildfires that began on January 7, 2025 in Los Angeles and California. The inferno has forced hundreds of thousands to evacuate to their homes. While in charge, the ruling Patriotic Salvation Movement has claimed a decisive victory in last month's parliamentary elections, winning 124 out of the 188 seats. Ese Lusliengu has greater details.
At least 24 people have died and dozens are missing as a devastating fire in Los Angeles area, California, destroyed over 12,000 buildings. The wild flames have burnt more than 60 square miles and forced tens of thousands of people to leave their homes. The National Weather Service has issued a warning for strong winds from 4 a.m. on Tuesday until noon on Wednesday, which could make the fire spread quickly.
More than 150 people in Los Angeles County have been ordered to evacuate, and over 700 are staying in 9 shelters. There are curfews in the Palisades and Eastern fire zones from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Firefighters from California and 8 other states, as well as Canada and Mexico, are helping to fight the fires. They have more than 1,300 fire engines, 84 aircraft, and over 14,000 firefighters on the scene. Authorities have established a center where people can report the missing. In the meantime, La City Fire Chief Christine Crowley urged people to stay away from scorched neighborhoods. Elsewhere, Chad's ruling party has won most of the seats in the last month's parliamentary election, which many opposition parties mostly boycotted according to early results. President Mahamad Idris Debby's party, the Patriotic Salvation Movement, won 124 out of 188 seats in the National Assembly, as announced by Ahmed, the head of the Electoral Commission, on Saturday. The voter turnout was reported at 51.56%, which opposition parties say shows that people are unsure about the fairness of the election,
saying the vote was skewed and lacked transparency.
And that forum page ends this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is LONGLA Blasius. He is a civil society activist. Good evening. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Immaculate. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here tonight, and I want to thank all the administrators of Equinoxe. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Bishops in Cameroon just ended their 48th seminar in Buea. In their final message, they decried the worsening economic situation of the Cameroon. They raised issues such as high cost of living, corruption, and some other ills. What's your take on these enabling factors of corruption, embezzlement, and poor governance?
Yes, Immaculate, thank you so much for that question. It is very important to note that our bishop have come up again with what we have been crying. And as a bishop, you know, we call them men of God, and as a man of God, you need to stand for the truth. And I do believe that the bishop, they have realized the truth, and they have discovered that it is high time for them as men of God to stand for the truth so that the country should move to the right directions. So when I followed their programs throughout this weekend, last weekend, I also realized that there were so many questions that they asked themselves, and I believe that in the days ahead, they themselves will answer that question. Now, when they come up with an issue of high cost of living, they came up with an issue of, I think, corruptions in Cameroon. I think those are the things that we have been suffering from, all the citizens in Cameroon, especially in the northwest and southwest regions. As far as this crisis is concerned, a lot of people have been going through a lot as far as the high cost of living is concerned. Why? Because there is what we call real exodus. People have left their villages and to come and concentrate in a town called Buea and Limbe. So with the saturations, with people saturating in that city, that is one of the highest costs. That is one of the highest things that makes the cost of living so high in that town of Buea. And I do believe that it is high time for the government to hear the cries of the bishop, because if the bishop are standing on that point, it means that they themselves are men of God. They have seen the truth about the happenings in the northwest and southwest region. So I cried also, I stand here as a man of God to also stand with the bishop, so that the government of Cameroon should listen to the cries of the bishop and answer and give answers to Cameroonians, so that we can have a good environment and conducive environment and good standards of living.
LONGLA Blasius, as a Cameroonian living in the city of Douala, how will you describe the living conditions of those living in this region?
I came to Douala not because I was transferred to work in Douala, not because I'm doing some kind of job that pushed me to, or that transferred me to come and work in Douala. I came to Douala because I ran away from the crisis in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon. So the situations in Douala, the living conditions in Douala has been so bad with me as an IDP, because the saturation, the number of people, the crowd that have come into Douala, and there is what we call the survivor of the fittest. So what is happening in Douala? You can take, from example, you will send a child in school, and you pay school fees of a child for more than 250,000 for your child in nursery school, your child in primary school, and even you go to the market, you will see that what we call rice, beans, what we call tomatoes, and so on. The prices are so high in such a way that you, as an IDP, you find it so difficult, so difficult to adapt with the town Douala.
You earlier said you are an IDP, and the bishops equally spoke on the Anglophone crisis. The bishops, they say the war in the northwest and southwest region is still ongoing because some people are using the crisis to enrich themselves. You have been following up what's happening there. What do you have to say about this?
Yes, Immaculate, I think what has been happening in Cameroon, it is something that we all need to sit up. And like I earlier said, that the bishop, I think it is the best moment for them, as they have started coming up, to fight and see that this crisis come to an end, because the crisis has not yet ended. I think they are saying the truth that the crisis has not yet ended, compared to what some of the government officials are saying, that everything is under control. I don't think everything is under control, Immaculate, because looking into my own life as an IDP, just a few days ago I buried my brother-in-law in the northwest region, that's in a village called Babawan in Dop, in the hands of the separatist fighters. He was kidnapped and he was killed. You know, so that is to tell you that things are not under control. The crisis is still very much going on, and it is high time for the government to listen to the cries of the common man. It is high time for, you know, for the bishop to really stand the gap, because even the Bible that we all read make us to understand that even God himself needs somebody to stand the gap. So somebody to stand the gap is for the bishop to really stand the gap for the common man and the government, so that they can be able to tell the government the truth.
Article 66 of the Constitution of Cameroon requires all government officials to declare their assets and property at the beginning and at the end of their tenure of office. However, this article is not being respected, reason why some administrators continue to amass wealth illegally, thereby impoverishing Cameroonians. Now that bishops were able to raise this during their seminar, are you convinced that the Yaoundé government will heed to the calls of these bishops?
So what is good about Cameroon, my country, is that we have good laws and we have never respect them. You know, when you talk of Article 66 of our constitutions, as you rightly said, Immaculate, I do believe that if Cameroonian, or if the government of Cameroon was respecting all the laws in our constitutions, we could have been, Cameroon could have been the best country, not only in Africa, but in the world. And to talk of the government in Yaoundé to respect the constitution, or to respect the article, I don't think they have been respecting, because if they could have been doing that, I think we couldn't have been in the place where we are today, because there is high level of corruption. The high level of corruption corruption in Cameroon. You see government directors, you see companies directors, you see government ministers in prison today. There are so many of them in prison. There are so many of them in Kondige, as we commonly call it. And all that is because they have embezzled money, and there are still some that are moving freely. And that is why you will discover that things are getting worse and worse in Cameroon every blessed day, because there is still high level of corruption. So I don't think Cameroon government has been respecting that, and I don't think the government in Yaoundé has also been respecting it, because I think if they could have been doing that, we couldn't have been where we are today.
LONGLA Blasius, thank you so much for your time. And that's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always choosing us. Have a wonderful evening in the company of more interesting programs. Bye-bye for now. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing.